Well, welcome back to Mini Bar Wars and the championship game. Well, it's been a long road, it seems like. We've had 14 games leading up to this, with surprisingly 4 Roses Small Batch Select making it all through, and pretty much sailed through pretty easily, as I remember. The Jim Beam Black Extra Aged, it had a lot more tougher battles, but it earned its place. And you'll notice that both of these are empty now. Well, the math came out right. I have just enough for the final championship round, probably just a little bit less than an ounce each, and I measured them. But it's enough for tonight's contest. Now, we're modifying the rules just a little bit. We're going to go 4 minutes on the clock versus 2 minutes. And we're going to talk just very briefly about the 2 contestants. So, 4 Roses Small Batch Select is from the powerhouse 4 Roses Distillery, and they make a lot of good products, and this Small Batch Select is one of them. I was surprised. I'd never tasted Small Batch Select until Mini Bar Wars, so I was pleasantly surprised. I had tasted Single Barrel in the past and wasn't a real fan, but if you know how the 4 Roses mash bills work, the Single Barrel is a real high rye content, and I'm not a rye fan. Don't mind rye and bourbon, just not a big fan. The Small Batch Select has less rye in it. To me, more sweetness, more complexity. I just like it better. So, 4 Roses describes this as being selected and a mingling of 6 of the 4 Roses 10 bourbon recipes or mashes, each aged a minimum of 6 years to handcraft Small Batch Select, non-chill filtered, and that's important, and 104 proof. You know, I never realized that this was 104 proof. I guess I never really, it's hard to read the tiny writing on these bottles. But yeah, 52% ABV. If you do the math, that's 104. So, and I like 100 proof bourbon. In 2019, Small Batch Select launched in Kentucky, New York, California, Texas, and Georgia, and is now available in more than 30 states across the country. So, it might not be available where you're at. I've never been someplace where I haven't seen 4 Roses, but obviously, according to the website, it's not everywhere. Jim Beam Black. Now, Jim Beam Black, although they do not have an age statement, I have seen opinion that it's also a 6-year bourbon. I think it probably maybe 4 to 6 year and somewhere in there. What Jim Beam says about it is that it's our premium 86 proof, so a big proof difference in this championship round. Our premium 86 proof bourbon whiskey spends years longer being aged in our American white oak barrels than our original Jim Beam. It's those extra years of aging that give Jim Beam Black its full-bodied flavor with notes of smooth caramel and warm oak. And they give you a kind of little chart there where they a map that kind of shows you sweetness versus oak versus char. They both show a lot of promise here in the Mini Bar Wars, and that's why they've gotten all the way to the championship round. So we're going to put, if I can find it here, 4 minutes on the clock, and we're going to go through these and give enough time to be fair to each one and then tell you what we think. So let's put 4 minutes on the clock, and I really think the Jim Beam is the underdog here, and it is the lower proof, so we're going to let it go first, and it's on the right. And we're starting. Jim Beam Black Extra Aged. Cheers. I think you really pick up the more aging in the Jim Beam, and that char, I think you really do pick up the char and a little more sweetness. It's definitely a more mature Jim Beam and a better Jim Beam. There's no question in my mind. If you like Jim Beam, you should like this even more. And it's not that it's inexpensive. It is a little more expensive than the white label, but I think I saw it the other day for, I don't know, $22, something like that. We'll see if we can find that and list that on the screen of what the 750 milliliter cost in the stores. Now the Four Roses, on the other hand, it's quite a bit more expensive. It's more than twice as expensive as the Jim Beam, but it's not about price tonight, it's about taste. So let's go over to the Four Roses Small Batch Select. Cheers. Well, you definitely get a lot of baking spice up front with the Four Roses, and you get that light to medium fruit. I mean, the fruit really comes across in the Four Roses. To me, it's the most prevalent flavor after you pick up the spice on the tip of the tongue. You really feel like this is a fruit-flavored bourbon, if there is such a thing. So let's go back to the Jim Beam. As far as traditional bourbons go, it's still not my favorite, but I'll tell you, it's growing on me. It's for Jim Beam. It's so much better than the white label. I can't tell you enough how much better a step up the black extra age is over the white label. Back to the Four Roses, and we're going to drink them all tonight. I think we got enough time. The only thing I wish about the Four Roses is I wish with all that fruit it was a little bit sweeter. I really think that the Jim Beam comes off slightly sweeter. That fruit is wonderful, but I want it to be a little bit sweeter. Back to the Jim Beam, and we're like a minute and 13. A little over a minute left. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, you definitely get that traditional brown sugar molasses going. You get a nice 86, and you get a nice Kentucky hug from it. And it was pretty fast, so I don't think it was the Four Roses. Although the Four Roses is definitely the proofier of the two. And it tastes it. If you like traditional bourbon and you want something that's inexpensive, or you need to buy a big bottle of, you definitely need to try the black extra aged. I don't think it's whether it's 22, 25, low to mid 20s. I don't think that you'll regret spending that much money and say to yourself, this is worth more than I paid for it. This is definitely tastes more like a $30 to $40 bourbon. Back to the Four Roses, and we're out of time. Okay, now that we've killed that annoying timer on my computer, I couldn't figure out what button to stop it. Anyways, let's talk about tonight's contest. Jim Beam Black Extra Aged. Generally, you can find this around $23 in a 750 milliliter, and I will tell you that it is so much better than that price point. It comes in, I think, also 1 liter, 1.75 liter. That's a big ass bottle. But the value for the money is exceptional. Just compared to any other bourbon that I know, other than maybe Benchmark, for $22, $23, you're just not going to find a better bourbon out there in that price point. Four Roses has several varieties, including the small batch select, and it's a little pricier. I mean, generally around $56, $57 is what I see it for, sometimes a little higher. So you're paying, a lot more for that product. But it's a different product. It's not your traditional bourbon. It's got that fruit going for it. It's got that spice going for it. It's got a lot of depth and character for it. And for that reason, not the price, for that reason, for the complexity of the taste, for the sweetness, for the fruit, for everything, the experience, I will tell you that Four Roses Small Batch Select wins this tournament. And even though I think that Jim Beam is a solid second place, there's no comparison between the two. It's apples and oranges. And in this case, tonight, the apples win. The Four Roses Small Batch Select wins. It is probably the pricier of a lot of the bourbons that we've done in this tournament. And even in these little bottles, because they give you a fancy little pear-shaped bottle, it's probably at least 2 times the price of a lot of the other mini bar or airplane sized bottles out there. But there's not a lot of good bourbons that I find that put their bourbon in sample bottles. I mean, I was really surprised to see the Small Batch Select, because I see it all the time. Like, do I really want to try? Do I really want to spend $56, $57 on a Four Roses bourbon when I really didn't care for the single barrel that much? No, hell no. Will I spend $4 or $5 for a little mini bottle to try it that I can get probably 2, really 3 good, neat drinks out of? Absolutely. So if you're unsure about the Four Roses Single Batch Select, or you've had the Small Batch Select and you've had the Small Batch and like, do I really want to spend a lot more for the Select? Buy one of these. I mean, it's the same stuff that's in the bigger bottles. And I think you'll know whether you like it better. I like it better. I like it better. It's not up here. I like it better than the single barrel. Now, I may get a single barrel one day that's phenomenal. But right now, the Small Batch Select is my go-to for Four Roses. Please like this video. Please make comments. Please share. And always, please subscribe so we can bring you more fun things like this. And please, never drink and drive. Always drink responsibly. And someone needs to get me some more bourbon because I'm out. Waiter! See you next time.